Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we are honored because we are joined by Navy SEAL, best-selling author, Jason Redman. Jason, first of all, I got to say thank you for your service to this country. We are so fortunate that we have brave men and women like you who are willing to put themselves, their lives, and literally everything on the line for us so that we get to say we live in the greatest, freest country on earth. So I just want to say thank you from the jump here for all you've done. You grew up kind of all over the place. You lived in Florida, Virginia, my home state of North Carolina, just to name a few. You grew up in a military family, which I know that's kind of typical. You jump all around. Was it because you grew up in a military family that you kind of just knew one day I will also serve this country? Was that always the plan?
Laura, yeah, from a young age. My parents tell me, I like to call our military law enforcement, first responder, I like to call that the protector community. It's those individuals out there that just have this calling to, when everybody else is running the other direction, when things are on fire or the world is burning, we're all running towards it. And from a young age, I just had that. I wanted to be a firefighter. When I was 3, I told my parents I'm going to be a firefighter. I had this super annoying, obviously given to me by a cousin or somebody, helmet that had a siren, and it was loud as hell. And I would run around the house with it, and everybody hated it. But a couple years later, my grandfather had fought in World War II, so very decorated pilot. I heard stories about him. My dad jumped out of airplanes with the Army and was an airborne instructor during Vietnam. Didn't go to Vietnam, but was instructing during that time. So these were the stories I grew up with. And I just said, this is what I want to do, and kind of evolved. I was 11 when Top Gun came out. So originally I was a fighter pilot. And then I heard about long-range recon patrols in Vietnam, and then later about special operations. And when I was about 14, I heard about the SEAL teams, and I said, that's what I want to do.
It's really you're the creme de la creme of our military. A Navy SEAL is the ultimate. And people who tune in often to this show know I've been literally waiting from the time I watched the movie G.I. Jane, Jason, for the United States military to call me and be like, listen, we need you now. Now's the time when we're going to need you to come in. We need you as a female Navy SEAL. I'm still waiting for the call. I just turned 40. So I don't know.
All right. Well, you're going to have to get a waiver. You're going to have to get a waiver, but it is open to women now.
I know.
Have not had one make it through training yet.
So let me ask you this. When women go through SEAL training, is it like we saw in G.I. Jane where they're given like these accommodations because they're women? Or are they doing the same thing the men are?
No. So first off, a woman has not even gotten into qualify yet to start. Now
they can't make it through. What do you have to do to qualify?
So qualification is physical, mental, and psychological. And there are people out there that will say, oh, well, it's bias, it's discrimination. It's absolutely not. I have friends that are still in the military. They don't see a picture of the candidate. The candidates only get a number. So you don't actually even know they're male or female.
Wow.
You actually only see their scores. So you see their academic scores, whether it's on the officer side or the enlisted side. You see their physical training score, and then you see their psychological profile. And that is how they select who is going to go through training. So as of right now, we have had a couple of female officers that have made it to the selection phase. For officers, they actually go out and do a selection called Special Operations Assessment and Selection. They go out and basically do 2 weeks, a week of SEAL training, and then a week of mission planning assessment by senior officers in the community. And right now we've had, I can't speak to exact numbers. I know at least a couple of women that have tried and they didn't make it through that initial selection assessment yet. I think it's only a matter of time. I've met some amazing women. I spoke at the Naval Academy just a couple of months ago, and there were a couple of young women there that aspire to go also.
That's so cool. Well, and by the way, that is how it should be done. You shouldn't know who the candidate is, what they look like, anything. As far as I'm concerned, you either qualify for something or you don't. we've kind of come to this weird place in our country, and it's probably the worst thing I think we could possibly do for the next generations, to assess people based on the way they look physically and their gender and that sort of thing. That's ridiculous. Either you're a good candidate for something or you're not. And as far as I'm concerned, when we have the best and the brightest in the United States military training for these missions that, I mean, would boggle the minds of most average people out there, I don't want anybody for a second being like, well, we let this person in because it's a woman and we got to have a quota of women. Absolutely not. But I agree with you. There probably will be women soon to come. I'm still going to wait for my phone call, obviously, for that to happen.
I'll talk to the higher ups and say, Laura Trump's waiting. Let's make this happen.
Put in a word for me. I love it. I just started doing, Jason, you know, it's interesting because, and I want to talk about your book and what you went through and why you wrote a book, essentially. But it's interesting because I think, you know, there's so much in society right now and in life right now that makes everything easy and feel good for people. People want to feel good. They want to take the easy path of least resistance. And I just started doing something. I do a lot of like triathlons, and I try to challenge myself physically on a whole host of different fronts, which I know you can appreciate. But I started doing this like cold plunge thing. My husband was all about it about a year ago. And it's one of those things where it really is about like your mental capacity to deal with pain and to understand, okay, like you're going to go in and do something and it's really going to suck for probably like 30 seconds. But once you get past that initial phase, then the benefits health-wise are like profound when you do something like this. I kind of wish we had an ability as a society and as a nation to tell people how powerful it is actually when you don't take the path of least resistance, when you challenge yourself. I think it's kind of what you talk about because you're a motivational speaker. You've been through hell and back, and I want you to talk about that too. But isn't there something to that it is so good for us whenever we challenge ourselves? It allows us to grow in so many different ways. And I'm afraid we are going in the opposite direction in a lot of ways in this country right now.
Or 100%. It's everything I speak on. You know, it's funny. I go into companies, schools, and I talk about the new pandemic. And everybody thinks I'm talking about COVID. And I'm talking about, no, it's the victim mindset. It's this mindset of, you know, if anything happens or if anything goes wrong, it's not my fault. I don't need to take responsibility for it. And number two, I should take the path of least resistance. My comfort is paramount. I shouldn't have to listen to things I don't like. Even if someone presents facts to me and they're offensive to me, then I shouldn't have to listen to them. And, oh my God, I've been all over the world. I mean, the world doesn't operate this way. The real world and the hardships of the world don't function this way. We learn and grow stronger through doing hard things. And unfortunately, we've reached it. You know, it used to be, you know, Laura, if you go back to the beginning of America or even several hundred years prior to that, society was hard. If you wanted to live, you were grinding out a hard life. You were physically having to do things. You may have to physically protect yourself and your family. And in one way, society has evolved, which is good. In the other way, we no longer have to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. I mean, we no longer naturally get pushed out of our comfort zone. We have to bring it upon ourselves to do that. I tell people an overcome mindset is never built by doing easy things. You have to do hard things. And in today's society, whether you're young or old, you've got to find things to do. Fitness is a great way to do it. Cold plunge is a great way to do it. Doing things that you're afraid of. If you're afraid of heights, go climb a mountain. If you're afraid, you know, go jump out of a plane. Do things that challenge you. That builds an overcome mindset.
It's so true. Anything that I'm like, this scares the hell out of me, I'm like, well, I'm going to go do it. I just released a song that made it on the Billboard charts, which is the craziest thing I have ever done. And let me tell you how terrified I was to do that. I'm like, I know I'm putting myself out there. I know what's coming my way from people who politically disagree with me. And I was like, you know what? It scares me. That's why I'm going to do it. Whatever it is. I mean, I think it's so true. You really can speak to this, though, because during a mission, you were shot 7 times. It resulted in 37 surgeries, somewhere around 1,200 stitches, 200 staples, and then some. I mean, tell everybody about what you went through. And on the other side of it, you ultimately wrote a book, The Trident. And I imagine that it was, based on this entire experience and overcoming so much with it.
Absolutely. What's funny about the Trident and my injuries get the most attention. That firefight was one of the most intense firefights, close range. We ended up, my team leader and my team ended up calling in the closest danger close fire mission ever executed in the Iraq War. We owe our lives to the AC-130 gunship. We literally called rounds directly on our position. I owe my life to my teammates, my team leader, the gunship. But the funny thing about that story is that gets all the attention. But the reality is, because of my injuries and how I overcame them, they want to link it back to the firefight. And frequently people say, oh my God, being shot multiple times and having your face blown out and all these different things, that must have been the hardest thing you ever went through. The reality is that journey started almost 2.5 years earlier when I was a young new SEAL leader, and I was young, immature, I was arrogant, and I made mistakes. I almost ended my career because of my own arrogance, and that culminated with a bad call on a mission in Afghanistan in 2005. And I got called on the carpet for it. I had guys that wanted to kick me out. I hit such rock bottom. I sat in a chair in Afghanistan with a gun in my mouth and almost took my life in Afghanistan in September of 2005. Thankfully, I didn't. I had some leaders that believed in me, and they said, hey, we want to give you the opportunity to be the leader we know you have the ability to be, but it ain't going to be easy. And they were right. It is the hardest journey I've ever walked, rebuilding back my leadership credibility, the trust and respect of my teammates. I went to Army Ranger School. I learned a lot about myself there. I did a lot of self-awareness and self-development over those 2.5 years that led back to this intense Iraq deployment and the injuries on the battlefield. So this is why I tell people it's so important to embrace hard times, to drive through those things, to not shy away from hard things and say, I can't do them, lean into them, because that journey set me up for success when I was injured. Because I look back, I was laying in a hospital bed and I was like, you know what? I've been through worse. You pulled yourself out of the depths of hell with a gun in your mouth and built back your reputation in an organization that doesn't tolerate failure well. So it's only through repeated superior performance and setting the example in everything you do and that overcome mindset. So when I laid in that hospital bed and that occurred, I was like, all right, I got this. It's going to suck. 4 years, almost 40 surgeries, and it did. But that led to my success. And that is really the story of the Trident. The Trident follows that journey from failure to redemption to injury to creating a new path. It's also a love story. It follows the story of my wife and I and how she's the real hero of that story because she was with me through the entire journey. So
wow. I mean, I think it's amazing. You really are a true inspiration to people. And I love that you bring up your wife because I feel like especially military spouses probably don't get the recognition they are due. We always focus on, and rightly so, the men and women who are deployed, you guys who were out there literally fighting for our freedoms here, for different causes around the world on behalf of the United States of America. And we are so grateful for that. But on the other side of that, you oftentimes have a spouse who stays home sometimes, and I think oftentimes with children, and they're raising these kids as a single parent, while the spouse is deployed. That it really is something I wish we talked more about. And I remember when my father-in-law was president, I went with him. I actually think it was to Virginia Beach, and we talked with military spouses about the fact that they have a hard time maintaining a job because you do move a lot and no one wants to hire someone who they're like, oh, you might move again, and just all the difficulties. And it's something he really took seriously and really tried to make some sort of an impact in that space. But kudos to your wife. I mean, tell us a little bit about her and about what all this was like for her.
Shoot, my wife is amazing. Her name, everybody who follows us on social media knows her name is the Long-Haired Admiral, LHA for short. She earned that title multiple times through my injuries and being my best advocate. Military spouse is such a difficult job. And in special operations, we have almost a 90% divorce rate. My wife, we went to a Navy SEAL Foundation event in Hawaii several years ago, and they asked my wife to speak. And she gave a speech that was phenomenal. And it was so powerful. My wife said, you know, these guys, SEALs, they're living their dream. Everything they ever wanted to do, they've accomplished. You know, I did. I was 14 years old and I wanted to be a part of this elite military unit. It's like becoming a football player and making it to the NFL to become a SEAL. And she said they're living their dreams. They're traveling the world. They're executing these high-level missions with their best friends, and they're making a literally global impact. And she said, when I was young, I never dreamed that someday, she said, I dreamed I would find my Prince Charming. She said, but I never dreamed that he would never be home. I never dreamed that I'd be fixing the dishwasher by myself in the middle of the night. I never dreamed I'd be getting up afraid, trying to figure out what that bump was in the house while the kids were away, wondering what was happening with my husband, someplace that I didn't even know where he was. You know, having my husband, I never dreamed I would have my husband on the phone being overseas saying, oh yeah, nothing's going on. But she said, deep down, I knew from watching the news, there was heavy fighting. She was right. I never told her that we were doing anything. I wanted to protect her. So she is amazing. So much so, we've had so much demand over the years that I'm super excited that we signed a deal with HarperCollins earlier this year for a relationship book, specific targeting anyone, but really we wanted to highlight the protector community, how my wife and I have made it work. I mean, it has been an amazing journey, and it's called Invincible Marriage, so that'll come out in February of 25.
Wow. I didn't know that there was a 90% divorce rate. That's among Navy SEALs?
It's common among special operations. It fluctuates a little, but we have a horrendous divorce. It's just hard. It's a hard career to meet someone who truly understands what they're getting themselves into. And then, I mean, you talk about guys that have done 6, 8. I know a guy that did 16 deployments. He's probably the highest I've ever heard. But that is a tremendous toll on a family and a marriage. And unfortunately, some guys don't always do the best job of being home when they're home, and that creates more stress on the family. So it is really tough. Wounded warriors have an 85 to a 90% divorce rate. So the combination of those things, man, my wife and I have navigated and overcome it.
Wow. And who better to write a book on it? And I think it kind of goes back to what we were initially talking about, which is I imagine the fact that you guys have probably had your highs and lows as a couple, as a married couple, and yet to be able to make it through all of that, to really fight to hang on to your relationship and to make it work in such a way that obviously you guys are very much in love and care so much about each other. It makes it even like sweeter on the other side, right? It's like things that you don't have to work for almost you don't hold as much value, and to have to really work on, and you have to work on any relationship, everyone knows that, but to have to like make it through the things that I imagine you guys have had to make it through, it must make it even better on the other side to look back and say like, man, we came so far. And I think it's great that you guys are going to write a book about it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, well, we run our business together, so she's my business partner. We're obviously moving into different areas of the business. So speaking, our speakers network, we're getting ready to launch a new event center. Just got involved with this new seltzer company. So she is my partner in all aspects of my life. And what's exciting, and I think we talk a lot about this, it is so critical, communication and shared dreams. And when you're doing it on the business side, it brings its own level of complexity and hardship and adversity. But at the same time, those victories, when you're able to do things in business, that it's not one spouse coming home saying, wow, I did this. It's look what we did. And that's a powerful thing for a couple.
Wow, I love it. I want to ask you about Patriot Hard Seltzer, because you did just bring it up. But there's a sign that was hung up on your door that got a lot of attention during your recovery. Please share that story with us.
Yeah, I've been in the hospital for maybe a week. And like anyone, when we go through something tremendously traumatic, I was kind of struggling Man, doctors told me the structural integrity of my face was compromised. My nose was gone. I'm wired shut. I'm trached. They're feeding me through a stomach tube. I was so weak from all the blood I lost. I think I had 8 blood transfusions over that 96-hour period. I'd have nurses help me use the bathroom. Doctors were talking about amputating my arm in the beginning. A lot of bad news. And I remember laying in that bed thinking, like, man, I don't know where I go from here. Like, I'm going to be permanently disabled. I'm going to be forever disfigured, and my special operations career is over. And about that same time, there were a couple of people that had come into the room, and they were talking about how hard it was to be in the hospital. And I get it. Laura, I don't know if you ever went to the military hospital during the war. It's a very hard place to be. You see young men and women that are ripped apart. Battlefield injuries are so horrendous. Burns, amputations, mutilations, disfigurement, traumatic brain injuries. And they were talking, they had come into the room, the nurse came in and they stepped off to themselves and they were talking about what a shame, what a pity. We send these young men and women to war. A little bit of the victim mindset, and this is a problem in society. We sometimes will place people into the victim box.
Yep.
And they left. And I remember laying in the bed thinking to myself, like, oh my God, is that me? Like, is that my future? Am I just going to be this broken veteran? Am I going to be like Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump, beginning of the movie, hookers and booze, Lieutenant Dan, not you've got new legs, Lieutenant Dan. And I remember thinking, like, no, greatest gift you have in this life is you have a choice. You have a choice when bad things happen. No one forces you to lay there and feel sorry for yourself or be the victim or blame or all the things we do when we're struggling. So in that moment, I said, look at that hard path you just walked from Afghanistan to where you are here. You've built yourself up. You're back. You know the formula. You built the formula over this 2.5 year period. And that formula is positivity in the face of negativity. You drive forward. You try and lift others up. You control what you can. And when my wife came back in the room, I wrote to her. I said, that's never going to happen again. I said, nobody's going to come into my room from this day forward feeling sorry for me. And from this day forward, I refuse to feel sorry for myself. And I wrote out this sign that said, attention to all who enter here. If you're coming in this room with sadness or sorrow, don't bother. The wounds I received, I got the job that I love, doing it for people I love, defending the country I love. I will make a full recovery. What is full? That's the absolute utmost physically. I have the ability to recover. And I'm going to push that about 20% further through sheer mental tenacity. This room you're about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, and intense rapid regrowth. If you're not prepared for that, go elsewhere. And we signed it, the management, we put it on the door and it went viral. It went everywhere. It earned me an invitation to the White House to meet President Bush. He signed it. I didn't feel like it was mine to keep, so we had it framed. And today it hangs in the Wounded Ward at Walter Reed. And it's like, it's motivated like millions and millions of people, not just the wounded warriors, but people who have had cancer, who have been in accidents. Their kids have cancer. Their kids have been in accidents. They will write me and say, hey, I put your sign on my door. Or, hey, I want to buy one of your sign on the doors. I sell a poster, and we sign them and they'll put it on their door. So it's been pretty amazing. The power, that's the power of a choice. And that's the power of positivity in the face of negativity.
I mean, honestly, I have chills right now listening to you tell that story, because it's so motivational to think of all that you had gone through. And then in that moment, you're like, no, my decision is to get over this and move on and have a great life. And wouldn't it be great if we had more people in this country, but just in general, have a mindset like that? Think about all that could be accomplished if we didn't have this sort of victim mindset and victimhood that I feel like everybody generally kind of gravitates towards. Tell me about Patriot Hard Seltzer, because I feel like there are a lot of things that one could do after leaving Special Forces. Patriot Hard Seltzer. And is that a dog? Because I love dogs. What do we have going on in the background? Real quick.
Yeah, that's my service dog, Karma. He's looking at the door. So
but what kind of dog? In? Yeah, we love a dog on this show.
Come here. You come back here so you can say hi to people.
Fantastic. Hey.
Oh, all right. Look up. There you go.
Oh, look, we got a pup on the show. It's so great. It's a very animal-friendly show, Jason. I'm just going to let you know that. We should have started with the dog. But anywho, Patriot Hard Seltzer. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, super honored. I mean, I am fortunate and blessed to be doing very well, and I'm the second phase of my life. I'm learning to be an entrepreneur, and started looking at, hey, we're doing pretty well. So what do we do with this money? I'm not just going to blow it. I want to invest in things. And I had a couple of young entrepreneurs who graduated from James Madison reach out to me and say, hey, man, we want to launch a new seltzer company. It's a whiskey-based seltzer, which there isn't one out there yet. And they said, and we want it to be targeting the average, everyday, amazing American, the protector community, the people that love this country, the people that love to do outdoor stuff, the people that love to do hard stuff. And they said, and we have this idea that we have 4 flavors, and every flavor will have a proud patriot, an American hero from a specific genre. We're going to have 1 military, 1 law enforcement, 1 fire, and 1 from the medical, like nursing, first responder community. And they said, we want you to be our first military. And I
Wow.
said, well, guys, I'm super honored, but I want more. I want to be involved. I want to be involved in this. Like, I want to invest in this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I invested in the company, and I'm one of the partners now. And yeah, we're going to be looking for who is our law enforcement. We want to find some law enforcement hero. We want to find a fire hero. We want to find a medical hero. They will be featured on the cans. And then at a minimum, 5% of the proceeds from that individual sale of that can in that genre will go back. Every year we'll select a different nonprofit, and that proud patriot will be one of the ones that helped select it, and proceeds from that will go out for that. So we're super excited. Our first event has actually happened at Trump National in Bedminster
Oh,
on November 29th. So
oh my
Laura,
God.
you should come.
I got an official invite. I love this. That's
100%.
amazing.
You should
Wow.
come, and we will be, because it's not for sale yet. It'll go out into the
Okay.
market in 2024. We're still fundraising, but we will have all the product at Trump National on the 29th, and we will be showcasing it. And I'm going to be speaking about what it is to be an American and choice, and it's going to be a great event. But Patriot
Wow.
Hard Seltzer is going to be amazing. You know,
What a cool
we
idea.
envision we envision these things like, it's the type of beverage that, imagine if during the signing of the Declaration they were like, hey, John, come over here and sign this. And he walks up and he goes, hang on
Pops.
1 second, here,
Yeah.
hold my patriot. And he signed the Declaration. Like, these are the moments that we drink Patriot Hard Seltzer.
I love it. What a cool idea. Okay, well, good. Well, now I know. I'm coming up soon. I got a plan if I'm going to attend this. I really want to ask you. We're coming to the end of our time here, but I want to ask you. There was, just from a special operations standpoint, I have wondered this since I saw this photo. There was recently a photo that the White House Instagram released, and it showed some special forces members. I think they were Delta Force members or something, and they were interacting with President Biden in some way. Obviously, that's frowned upon because you don't typically let the identities of anyone in this higher ranking area of the military, you don't want them identifiable because these are people doing very specialized missions and they could be targeted, their families could be targeted, etc. What happens, Jason, in a situation like that? Like if their faces are shown, if their identities become known, do they have the potential to go on and complete their service in the same capacity? Are they then kind of bound to a more desk job type thing? What happens in a situation like that? Because I've wondered it since I saw that photo.
So I will say, I'm not going to get into the technical or security aspects of things they can do in situations like that, because that kind of stuff's most likely classified or at least highly sensitive. Um, I would say that obviously in this day and age where technology is such a big thing, facial recognition is such a big thing, AI, all these different things. Our military special operations is always very proactive about how we manage the identities and the level of awareness. This was a colossal mistake on the part of whatever photographer allowed that to happen, and
Yeah.
whoever took that picture and allowed it to go public. This is why it's really important, and it's just really important that people that are making those decisions, the public affairs people, they know what they're doing, and they understand that our special operations personnel are critical, even any of our military personnel. We should be protecting our military. Israel does such a good job. They highlight their wins. Hey, our SOF did this, but that's all you'll ever hear about it. It's not, I'll be honest, if you go back to when the bin Laden raid happened, what should have been announced is a special operations unit had a successful mission. That was it. Instead of identifying who did what, who did this, that the operational security on those things, obviously as a government, we want to highlight our wins, but it should be about as vague as possible. Israel does a great job at this. We need to get better.
Yeah, I just honestly, the only thing I could think about is, as a person who has been through training like this, the amount of training that these individuals probably went through, the amount of time in their life they dedicated to reach that level in the United States military, and then to potentially have it all blown up by somebody who posted an Instagram post. To me, I was just like, oh my God, it's horrible. I hope that they are still able to serve in whatever capacity they want, but I don't know the answer. Before we go, what is one piece of advice that you would give people? Obviously, you've given us a lot in this interview, and there's so much to take away, and I appreciate it so much. But if somebody came up to you on the street and they were like, hey, what can you tell me right now that could help me improve my life? What would you say?
Whatever hope or dream you have, whatever thing you've ever thought about doing. I mean, Laura, you talked about releasing that song at the beginning. Kudos to you. I call that I call that living greatly, because in reality, most people are alive, but they're just a shell walking through life, because long ago they gave up on their hopes and dreams. Mm-hmm. They decided, that's just not in the cards. And sometimes where we are at a point in our life, maybe one avenue has closed, but there's so many opportunities that people allow fear, doubt, all these different things stop them from doing. And I tell people, you have to live greatly. You get one shot at this life. I am unique. And there's probably several million more of us out there that got a second chance at life. So I'm going after it with gusto, man. I'm going after any idea that I have. I've thrown a lot of stuff at the wall. Some have failed, but other stuff I'm like, that worked. Let's go. And that's living greatly, because I want to know the second time I go around, when it's time for me to check out, I had regrets the first time. I had things I wish I hadn't done, and I had things left undone, and I don't want that. So I want to live greatly. I want to achieve financial success. I want to enjoy these times with my family. I want to have fun doing things. I want to make an impact. And there's one additional part of living greatly. All of us leave people behind. I've lost over 50 that I personally know, teammates. 30 of them I directly worked for. I have their names tattooed on the inside of my arm. Friends of mine that either I did missions with or I was friends with, who passed away since 9/11. And I often think about, they would have given anything to still be here. Their names etched on granite walls around this country. Why is my name not on that wall? I can't answer that. All I know is it's up to me to do everything in my power to live greatly for them, because their families, if they're watching you, they're like, and all you're doing is wasting your life, and you're a burden on society, or you're unwilling to get off your own X or overcome your own problems. I know their families would be looking at you going, man, if my son was here, they would not have allowed that to happen. That's why you have to live greatly. I live greatly for my friends left behind. To live greatly for those who are no longer here, and you need to live greatly, because when your time comes, you want to know, you know what, I might not accomplish this, but at least I went after it. Know that I gave it my all, instead of being most timid souls out there who are like, you'll go to your grave and be like, what if?
Should have tried it, should have done it. I know you don't. I always feel like you never regret the things you tried. You always regret the things that you didn't try, because you just don't know like what could have happened. If you try and you fail, great. At least you gave it a shot and you learn from those failures, as I'm sure you've done yourself with the things you said, man, maybe it didn't stick. Where can people find out more about you? Where can they follow you? How can they continue to be inspired by you, Jason?
Go to jasonredman.com. You can find all the stuff on me, my courses. I run defensive training for people, because I want to help people to be ready in this crazy world we're in. I speak all across the country. If you're interested in bringing me in, you can book me for speaking. And obviously our books are out there. You can get signed copies of the book on my website, I am part of an amazing coaching group called Legacy Tribe, and myself and some other high-level leaders and entrepreneurs will coach you to be the best version of yourself. So all those things are on my website. Go to jasonredman.com.
Well, you're the best. I'm going to hope to see you at Trump Bedminster. Now that I know, I'm going to try not to be like a weirdo and just coming up out of the blue and be like, hey, remember me? But if I come at you, just understand what's going on. Jason, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the inspiration. Thanks for taking time with us today. We appreciate you very, very much. And to everybody at home, as always, thank you for joining us here on The Right View. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more. Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it. So I'm like a lot of people. I love to wear an Apple Watch, but I hate how it looks. And I scoured the internet to search for the best looking Apple Watch cases I could find, and I found it. goldandcherry.com. They have absolutely beautiful watches, as you can see here. Everything is waterproof. Everything looks good with different outfits. You can get sporty, you can get fancy, but they are great quality, made out of Delaware in the United States of America. And they have been kind enough to give me a promo code that I can share with you if you want to get your hands on one of these as well. It's Lara T, L-A-R-A-T is the promo code to get yourself a discount at goldandcherry.com. And not only do they make Apple Watch cases, they also make great products for iPads and iPhones, keyboards, your desktop, everything you could possibly need. Goldandcherry.com. Use promo code LARAT so you can get yourself one of these today too. At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, this is the pillow that I want to sleep with. And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to Sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, Sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.